The knock came before the sun did, before color found the sky, before the birds remembered they were supposed to sing. I was standing still when it happened, counting my breath without realizing it. The house was quiet in that way only early morning knows. Not asleep, not awake, just waiting. I didn't move right away. I listened. One knock, then nothing. I told myself it was the pipes or the wood settling or the echo of something I hadn't finished dreaming. But my body didn't believe that. My shoulders stayed tense. My feet stayed planted. Another knock came, softer this time, almost polite. I walked to the door slowly, the floor creaking beneath me in the same places it always had. The house knew my weight. It always had. I wondered if it knew what was coming too. I rested my hand on the doorknob and waited longer than I needed to. Not because I was afraid, but because something in me wanted to stay in that moment. Some moments feel fragile, like they'll break if you rush them. When I opened the door, the cold stepped in first. He stood a few steps back, just outside the porch light, not close enough to knock again, not far enough to disappear. His coat was too thin for the hour, and his hands were red from the cold. Still, he wasn't shaking. His breathing was steady, like he'd prepared himself. He didn't smile. He didn't apologize. He just looked at me, like he was making sure I was real. "Daniel," he said, not as a question, not as a greeting. He said my name like confirmation. I didn't correct him. I didn't ask who he was. The road behind him was empty, gray and stretched thin, like the day hadn't decided what it wanted to be yet. "Yes," I said. He nodded once, a small movement. Relief, maybe. That was when I realized something was wrong. How does a stranger know your name before the sun does? I moved aside before I fully decided to. My body made the choice first, opening a narrow space between me and the door frame, enough for him to pass if he wanted to. He hesitated, not long, just a moment, but it was enough to notice, enough to feel like he was asking something without words. Then he stepped inside. He moved carefully, like the house might react if he didn't. His shoulder didn't brush the wall. His hand didn't reach for anything to steady himself. He crossed the threshold and stopped, standing still in the entryway as if waiting for the room to speak first. The door closed behind him with a soft click. Softer than it should have been, the sound echoed longer than I expected, settling into the corners of the house. Inside, the air was warmer. It smelled like old wood and last night's coffee, the kind of smell that doesn't belong to a single moment, but to years stacked quietly on top of each other. He breathed it in slowly, not deeply, just enough. We stood there facing each other with too much space between us. Neither of us sitting, neither of us moving closer. His eyes traveled through the room, not wandering, not curious. He wasn't discovering anything. He was recognizing it. The table near the wall, the lamp that leaned slightly to the left, the small crack in the ceiling I'd stopped noticing years ago. My chest tightened. "You can sit," I said, though I didn't move to show him where. He shook his head. "Not yet," he replied. The words were calm, but final, like he needed to stay standing for a reason he hadn't explained. I watched him then, the way his coat hung open, thin and worn, the way his hands rested at his sides, fingers stiff from the cold. He looked like someone who had rehearsed this moment many times and still hadn't found the right place to begin. "Why are you here?" I asked again. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he turned his head slightly, looking down the hallway, toward the darker part of the house, toward the places where the floor creaked if you walked too fast, toward the room where the light always arrived last in the morning. "It's just like she kept it," he said quietly. The words landed heavy. "You knew her," I said, not asking. He nodded once, slow and careful. "Yes." That single word stayed in the air longer than it should have. It pressed against my chest, against all the questions I hadn't asked yet. I waited for him to explain. He didn't. The house felt tense then, alert, like it was listening for something it remembered. And for the first time since he arrived, I felt certain of one thing. He wasn't a stranger to this place. He noticed the chair before he sat in it. I could tell by the way his steps slowed, by the way his eyes lingered there longer than they had anywhere else. Like the rest of the room had faded for him, leaving only that one place behind. It was near the window where the morning light always arrived gently, never in a hurry. The fabric was worn thin at the arms, the cushions slightly slanted from years of use. My mother's chair. He lowered himself into it carefully, like he didn't trust his weight. The wood creaked beneath him, a soft, familiar sound that pulled something tight inside my chest. The moment he realized what he'd done, his shoulders stiffened. "I'm sorry," he said quietly, almost to himself. I didn't answer. Some apologies don't want forgiveness. They just want to be acknowledged. That chair had held her through long mornings and longer silences, through cups of coffee she never finished and thoughts she never shared. It had never felt empty until someone else sat there. He folded his hands in his lap, fingers pressed together like he was holding something invisible. His eyes stayed lowered, respectful, careful, as if looking up might disturb something that still lived in the room. The air felt heavier, not tense, just full, like the house had taken a slow breath and was holding it. "She liked the mornings," he said after a while, "the quiet ones." The words landed softly, but they stayed. "She didn't talk much," I replied. "Not at the end." He nodded slowly, still studying the floor. "She talked enough," he said, "when it mattered." Then he said her name. He didn't rush it, didn't raise his voice. He said it the way you say something fragile, something you're afraid might break if you hold it too tightly. Hearing her name from his mouth changed the room. The silence deepened. The walls felt closer. Even the light through the window seemed to pause, like it was listening. I watched him then, really watched him. The way his shoulders stayed tense, the way his breathing remained steady, controlled, the way his fingers traced small patterns against each other, never touching the arm of the chair. He wasn't comfortable, and that mattered. "How did you know her?" I asked. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he looked toward the window, following the thin line of morning light as it crept slowly across the floor. Outside, the world was waking up without us. When he finally spoke, his voice was lower. "She trusted me," he said. The words didn't sound proud. They sounded heavy, like something he'd been carrying longer than he wanted to admit. I shifted my weight, suddenly aware of how close the room felt. "She trusted very few people," I said. "I know," he replied. There was no hesitation, no need to explain. I waited, hoping he would say more. He didn't. The silence stretched, but it didn't feel empty. It felt intentional. "Who was she to you?" I asked again. This time he looked at me. He held my gaze steadily, without apology, without defense. And in his eyes, I saw something that unsettled me. Not grief, not guilt, recognition. Like he had been waiting for this moment. Like sitting in that chair wasn't the first difficult thing he'd done for her. And suddenly I understood something I wasn't ready to name yet. My mother had lived a life I never fully saw.